Good morning, good evening. Welcome everyone to the Saturday Sangha on the Shiva Sutras. I'm John and I'm speaking to you from Damascus, Oregon.
And I'm Denise.
She's right next to me.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Hi, thank you for joining us. I'm George and I'm speaking to you from Kathmandu in Nepal.
And this is Claudia. Good morning and welcome to the Sangha, also from Damascus.
Yay. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Shauna is in Oregon as well. And so we have Martin in Sarasota. Hello. And Anil. Hello in Pune. Namaskar. And hi, Lawrence in Colorado. Good to have you. And we have Paul in North Carolina. And we have Kanwal. You're in Bay Area right now. Namaskar. And hi, Elroy. Good to see you again. And we have Steve. Good morning. And my good friend John Vossler back from Esalen. Good to have you in Los Angeles. And we have Troy in Virginia. And hi, Bill in Western Colorado. And good morning, Kurt in El Cerrito. And we have Bruce, hello. And Sudhir in Pleasanton. And Namaskar, Vijay. And we have Paul in Texas. And hi, Brenda in Canada. Leah in Virginia, welcome. Archana, hello. And Alexander, and we also have Suresh in Chicago. And I'm going to go over the names now. Marlena, and we have Namaskar again, Tej and Raj. Good to speak to you this morning. And we have Ragini and Anne, hello. Just sent you an email. And hi, Rosana. And Namaskar, Raj and Ranju. And we have Catherine in Oregon as well. And Linda in Connecticut. Patricia, hello. And Sonia, hi. And Iane and Ivy and Cherry. And we have so many more people. Welcome, everyone, as you join Mom and Dad, I believe, for the, thank you, for the chanting.
Om Agorevyo, Agorevyo, Gora Gora Tari Vesya, Sarvatra Sharva Sarvebhyo, Namaste Rudrapebhyo. Agorevyo, Agorevyo, Gora Gora Tari Vesya, Sarvatra Sarva Sarvebhyo, Namaste Rudrapebhyo. Agorebhyo, Agorebhyo, Gora Gora Tari Vesya, Sarvatra Sarva Sarvebhyo, Namaste Rudrapebhyo.
O Lord Shiva, you alone transform yourself into all forms, into the into the forms of the powers of Rudra as Agora, the enlightening and uplifting energy, Goratari, the frightful darkening energy which pushes one down, Angora, the energy which keeps one fixed, neither rising or falling. These forms embodied in Rudra Shiva are helpful to aspirants while they are aware, and frightful for the ones who are ignorant, pushing them down and down.
Thank you. Come join us for our 10-minute meditation practice. If you have your own practice, please practice that or join me in whatever way. So find your seat. Sit up tall. Spine nice and lengthened yet relaxed. And just feel yourself arriving into your room, into your body, into your breath. As your gaze softens, finding a space on the floor to bring your attention to, somewhere below you, but just with a soft gaze. As you begin to bring your attention now to your breath, your normal free-flowing breath of your inhale and of your exhale, simply observing. And over time, starting to notice the pauses as well of the inhale, the slight pause in the exhale, and the slight pause. Be here for a bit. And as you inhale, bring awareness to the space between the eyebrows. And as you exhale, gently pause at the end of the exhale. Rest your gaze there and continue like this, inhaling. Awareness at the space between the two eyebrows. Exhaling, resting in the pause. And just carrying this turning point throughout the practice. And if thoughts arise, just simply observe them. And then return to the breath. No force, no resistance, just presence. taking your time as you slowly surface from your practice. George.
Okay. So before we start, happy Raksha Bandhan to everybody. I'm not sure if it's the same, it's at least in India and Nepal today, it was Jada Purnima or Shravan Purnima and Raksha Bandhan, where all the sisters would tie a nice thing around the wrists of their brothers. Always a beautiful ceremony, which Swamiji enjoyed in Kashmir. So if it's full moon in the US today, then it's today.
And it doesn't have to be blood brother. It can be somebody who you think of as your brother, and then they give you money or a gift.
I didn't get any money.
You didn't, or a gift.
Okay. So we last week we got halfway through verse 34, Tad Vimuktastu Kevali, which was about how the yogi who is, and there's a very important word to hear because it comes up today, Puriashtaka, the city of eight. We've had it before. The yogi or the yogini who has gone beyond the sense that I'm the person awake, I'm the person dreaming, I'm the person asleep, has a state of oneness, which is that kevali, and then vimukta, which is kind of isolation. They're no longer seeing differentiation. So, and this verse continues with that same theme, where Swamiji says that this person is not affected by another Sanskrit word, moha, illusion, the illusion of duality. So we can go directly to here, Swamiji, finishing this verse 34.
Yaduktam Sri Kalika Krami. Sukhudukkadi Vijnana Vikalpa Nalpa Kalpitam Vitta Dvaita Maha Moham Yogi Yoga Phalam Lavayat. Yogi who has destroyed all these states which are imagined, which have come out, which have risen by imagination. That is pain, pleasure, all those perceptions and thoughts, vikalpas, analpakalpitam, that dvaita moham. Actually, that is great illusion of duality, great illusion of two perceptions. That is duality, great delusion of differentiation. Because you differ sukh and dukh, pleasure and pain. Sukh is nice, dukh is not nice. In the same way, you differ all these two, opposite two. And that is dvaita, duality. That is the differentiated state of illusion. The yogi who has destroyed this kind of illusion, this yogi yoga phalam lavet. He actually gets the real fruit of yoga. Tu shabdo vakhyamano apekshaya vishesh dyotakah. Tu tat vimuktas tu. Tu is vishesha. Tu is not bhinnakraba. Tu does not separate. Tu is not for separation. Tu is here meant for vishesha, for being supreme. Tat vimukta, vishesha, visheshi dyotaka. Yes, natu vitareki. Evam uttara sutra gatopi etat sutra apekshaya. Or uttara sutra gatopi etat sutra apekshaya. Uttara sutra gata means on the contrary. He will explain now this state which is absolutely opposite to this state. the state of individual. So he is above that. He is above the state of individuality. And this is meant by two. That is being explained in next sutra.
We're going to be entering this world of universal God consciousness. And so we're moving from the world of individuality where things are separate. This thing is there, that thing is there, I'm here, Denise is there, we're all separate, everything's separate. And we'll be moving into that state of universality where the whole world is permeated by your own being. So it's a very exciting time to hear this.
The next verse follows on from that. So Claudia, we can go directly to the next verse because he's going to talk about the person who's actually caught in that state of duality first before he goes on to that unified state. So yeah, this is a very short verse on its own. So Claudia.
Moha pratisamhatastu karmatma. On the contrary, the yogi whose God consciousness is destroyed by this illusion, by this state of illusion, moha. He is karmatma, he is dependent to his actions. So his karmas, his actions, past, present and future will lead him, will play him. So he is ordinary individual. He is no good a yogi. The one whose state of being is destroyed by this illusion of duality. This is pain, not good, this is pleasure, good, better. You have got a good job, nice, congratulations. I am dismissed, oh, very sad. This is the state of karmatma. This is the state of individual being. Mohena ajnanena. Moha means ajnana, ignorance. By ignorance, who is pratisamhata? Pratisamhata means tathekagana, who is shrunk with this moha, with this illusion. Tatyeva sukh dukha yaha. So it is why he has become the object of pain and pleasure. He has become object of pain and pleasure. Plaything of object. Plaything of pain and pleasure. Pain and pleasure play him. He is not the player of pain and pleasure as yogi was. He is played by pain and pleasure. So punah karmatma. He is karmatma. He is said to be karmatma. His embodiment of Swarupa is only actions. He is dependent upon actions. Actions will carry him. Nityam Shubha Shubha Kalankita. So he is Kalankita. He is always blotted. Blotted by good and bad. Good and bad actions. Taduktam Tatraiva. It is well said in that very Shastra, Kalika Krama. Yat avidya vratataya vikalpa vidiyogata Shivadin naiva jateti samudbhavayate khilan tata shubha shubha bhava lakshante tadvashattata ashubhe vyaschibhavebhya param dukkham prajayate. Yat avidya vratataya, when this yogi does not maintain awareness of God consciousness, but on the contrary, he is covered. His God consciousness is covered by ignorance. Avidya avritataya. Vikalpa vidiyogata. Because of his differentiated perceptions of world. Vikalpa vidiyogata. Shivadin naiva jahite samudbhavayate khilan. Does not experience all the elementary state of universe, beginning from Shiva to ending in earth. All these 36 elements he does not experience in the way of supremacy, in the way of universality. Then only Shubha Shubha Bhava Lakshante. Then only the states the states of good and bad appear to him. And by that, by experiencing that good and bad things, ashubhe bhaishchabhavebhyah param dukkham prajayati. So the supreme pain shines in him because of those states which are not fortunate. Absolutely, he becomes unfortunate being. Bas we'll do this much.
It's a wonderful statement here. We have to discuss a bit amongst ourselves this idea of this yogi who's experiencing this God consciousness, but he doesn't have that in the world. And in our understanding of and experience of the reality of being, that yogi, there are those yogis, most yogis, they have a state of samadhi, of relation, of experiencing of God consciousness internally. We call it Nimilana Samadhi, and that samadhi is maintained by those yogis internally. So they have that internal feeling of oneness, experience of oneness with God internally. They experience that oneness of God internally, but they don't experience that oneness of God outside in the world. So internally, in their state of of meditation and in the state of samadhi, they have that state of samadhi that gives them that that individual God consciousness for the experience and reality of God, but they don't experience that world after that state of samadhi is over. So when that state of samadhi is over, then they're back in the world, and so this is to be distinguished from that state of universal God consciousness, which we're going to be talking about now. So before this, the state of individual God consciousness is the state where that yogi has it only internally when he's in meditation, having that state of samadhi. But when he's out in the world, then he's just like an ordinary person. He experiences everything during the day. I mean, he may remember the bliss of that moment and the bliss of that oneness with God at that moment. But then during the day, he doesn't live that experience. He lives the experience of duality, of the good and bad, of aches and pains, whatever. And he's not he's not filled with that oneness. And so that's what's being distinguished here, is that those yogis that have that God consciousness but don't have that, don't maintain that God consciousness and lose that God consciousness in the day or after they're out of samadhi, when they're not in samadhi. That's what they want. That's what we want to define here, that state. Nimilana samadhi, individual God consciousness, which is not maintained in the world.
Questions? You're muted.
I am, aren't I?
Gotcha.
Fantastic. Okay. So Paul Nagy wants to know, how important is the exercise of one pointed concentration to keep ignorance away and let Shiva consciousness shine?
The most important. That's number one. That's why Swamiji always, throughout all of these teachings, and John and Denise will tell you that no matter what text he was teaching, when that kind of question came up, he'd always come back to practice. Watch your breath. That was the real answer to into that. And that comes up, in fact, in not the next one, but the last part of today's talk.
So there's another question from Barbara. She says, I always thought that pain and pleasure depend on one's own perception and do not represent a real reality. But here it seems that pain and pleasure shouldn't be perceived at all.
I think here the pain and pleasure, I'm trying to have you understand that this is part of the duality of the world. These are different. We see them as different things. Everything we see is different. And, that's why I say I'm here and Denise is next to me here, and I see her as completely different in terms of internal feelings, which is pain and pleasure, or those feelings we have internally. Those we see as separate. The point we're going to see is that we don't see them as permeated with your own God consciousness, so they become filled with the oneness of that. So In that way, they're not different. They're actually that oneness of that God consciousness having a different expression, but they're not actually separate. The thing we want everyone to understand is we want to move away from being absolutely separate, like we see everything as separate. Pain is really separate from pleasure. There's no question about that. And so for a person in duality, he sees that absolutely. But a person in universal God consciousness, he may see that pain, and he may experience that sensation of pain. He may see that sensation of pleasure, but he sees it permeated with his own God consciousness. So he doesn't see it as pain and pleasure like as a person in the individual state does.
Also, pain and pleasure only exist as long as, he said before, you have the sense of I-ness on your body, I-ness on your states of waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. As long as I'm thinking this is my body, then you're going to have pain because it's my pain. You know, so you're limited by that, this I-ness, and that word Puriyashtaka, which is the city of eight, when the Puriyashtaka, when we're entrenched in that, because it's the expression of all these states, the limited states, then you own that pain. But when you go beyond that, there's no longer anything to pay because you're beyond the sense of of my limited body, like John just said. Just another way of looking at that this I-ness that we attribute, you know. And as Denise used to have that thing, she says, when you're in pain, instead of saying, oh, I'm in pain, say, oh, this is pain. Like you objectify it, oh, this is pain. You can't do that with intense pain because when you're in intense pain, you take something to alleviate it. But just as an example.
Yeah.
That's right.
And this whole experience where you're able to experience pain and pleasure as the same or like non-duality, it's an experience where you're having this God consciousness experience. It's not where you can kind of make it happen.
No.
Right? It's not a restraint. It's not I'm going to be strong and not feel pleasure and not feel pain and everything's just going to all of a sudden happen.
Yeah.
I'm just saying this because I'm seeing little comments here and there, and I just wanted to know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, you can't think yourself out of pain, because if you're in pain and you think, oh, this is not pain, you're just thinking your way out of it. It's actually beyond thought. It's in the nirvikalpa state where you're the witness of the pain, and it doesn't have the same effect. It's going to come up a little bit in the next two verses, so it'll get covered in that.
And we can ask the other question from Nilofer after we listen to this next part of Swamiji's. Dad, did you want to add something? I saw you looking over.
No, I'm good.
You're good? Okay, great. Thank you, George, Mom, Dad. Let's go. Claudia, take us away.
Just before we start,
कर्मात्मनो यदा अनर्गल माहेश शक्तिपात वश उन्मिषित सहज स्वातंत्र योगो भवति तदा अस्य. Thus, although such a yogi has become karmatma, karmatma means dependent to his past acts, as ignorant persons are. When by means of anargal mahesh shaktipata, by means of Satantra, absolutely independent grace of Lord Shiva, his state of Swatantra, his state of perfect independence shines again. Then what happens to him? Veda tiraskare sargantar karmatvam. He drives away all the field of differentiated perceptions. Veda tiraskare. Veda means differentiated perceptions. When these differentiated perceptions are kept away or subsided, then sargantar karmatam, he enters in another creation of God consciousness, new world. He enters in new world. Sharir pranadi ahanta abhimanatmana sakal pralyakalaadi pramatri uchitasya vedasya tiraskare chitasyapi chidgan swabhav unmajjanat apahastane. that differentiated perception which is concerned with that subjective being, that individual who is not away from Sakala or Pralayakala, who is residing in Sakala state and Pralayakala state, because he has ego on Sharir, Pran, Purashtak and Shuny, not ego in his own real nature of God consciousness. So he is away from that state. When that differentiated perception is kept away, when he drives away this differentiated perception from his self, tiraskare. Tiraskare means he does not ignore it totally. He ignores it through mind. Although he does everything as other individuals do, but internally he is not attached to those differentiated perceptions. That is what he explains. Tiraskare thitasyapi. Although he is in them, although he lives in those differentiated perceptions, but Chidgana Swabhav Unmajjanat, nature of his God consciousness shines forth, and apahastane, he subsides that differentiated perception by that. And successfully he enters in the world of Mantra Pramata, Mantreshwar Pramata, Mantreshwara Pramata. That is Shuddha Vidya, Ishwar and Sadashiva. Successfully, and he attains glory of his own. So Mahatmya Avaftav. Avaftav, when he attains this Mahatmya, his own glory, his own real glory of God consciousness, then Sargantara Karmatam takes place. Then he enters in another new world of God consciousness. He ignores that previous degraded individual consciousness.
One of the things we have to examine first is the very first paragraph of this shloka that we're listening to. I mean, this sutra, the very first paragraph of its explanation, where he says Shaktipata. When that yogi experiences the Shaktipata, Lord Shiva's the Shaktipata, embraces him. Is that right? Again, I don't have the text before me here, but as I remember, it speaks in terms of when that Shaktipata embraces him. And so what I want to point out to everyone is that it's by the Shaktipata that he gains this reality, not by his own effort. A person can't, by his own effort, gain that state of universal God consciousness, because the individual being can't force himself or can't force to become universal being. So that has to happen from that side. He's brought into that state by God's consciousness, by God's Shaktipata, by God's grace. God reaches through and pulls you in, I guess what you say. Think of it that way. But the point that I want to make is that this state happens to that yogi by God's grace. And then he's brought to that state, that universal state, which we're going to be talking about, Shuddha Vidya, Ishvara, Sadashiva, these pure states of reality, of experiencing. And these states are experienced only by that Shaktipata, by God's grace for you. And once you have that Shaktipata, then you have that. And your life is filled with that forever. But
you can't lose it.
But you can't have it either until you have Shaktipata.
And he said it happens, he equated grace with swatantriya, the independent freedom of Lord Shiva. Like John said, it comes from the other side. We can be ready for it. And then somebody said to my Swamiji, so why are we meditating if we can't do anything? He said, no. He said, you have to meditate and stand at the door. It'll bring you right there to where the grace is there. And then you'll be capable of not receiving that grace and holding it. Without meditation, many people get graced. They get an incredible epiphany and an expansion of consciousness and everything, and then it fades away. It might last for months, years. But when you have the practice to uphold that and the knowledge of that, that's what makes it stable.
So then that perfectly answers Harish's question, where he was saying, it appears that to go from Nimilana Samadhi to Unmilana Samadhi, one needs the benefit of the independent grace of Lord Shiva, and it is outside one's effort or due diligence. And at what point in one's spiritual journey should one just step back and chill?
When
I
the
think you
grace.
can. Sorry.
No, go on, John.
I don't think you can really say at what point you have to step back and wait, because that can just happen to you in any moment. You can't say when it's going to happen to you, it happens to you, just it may happen right now, this very moment we're watching this, listening to this lecture, and boom, it happens to some of us, or it may happen tomorrow morning when you're not expecting it. It just happens. It just happens. That's why it's Svatantria, Lord Shiva's independent freedom. You can't say if you did 1, 2, 3, 4, then you'll get 5. Huh? There's no 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the reality of Lord Shiva, independent reality of Lord Shiva.
We have it in, that's why Swamiji made this, or he emphasized the importance of this Agora mantra. He said, when the Agora Shaktis grab you, he said, they drag you to that state of God consciousness, whether you like it or not. He said, because that's the intensity of grace, that individuality just disappears, and it'd be lovely to be dragged to God consciousness in any way, shape, or form. But that's the conundrum for many people who come into Kashmir Shaivism. It's yeah.
So then Nilofer wants to know, is moving from individual God consciousness to universal God consciousness a matter of time?
Matter of time could be instantaneous.
Yeah.
Or it could be after 5 lifetimes. So you can't say when it'll happen to you. I mean, you hope, you pray. I mean, you think, that's why, Swamiji says it's important to meditate. You kind of like you prepare yourself, and you like you say, waiting at the door, knocking and waiting at the door for the door to open. But you don't know when that door is going to be open. But it's even the waiting part is full of bliss. Not waiting. Meditation is a wonderful thing, and a person who meditates and who's on the path of that reality, you cannot not meditate. You love to meditate. You look forward to it. You love, just like all of us are here to listen to the Swamiji's teachings. You just want to hear more. Just even though you don't want to understand why you want to hear more, you just want to hear more. It all seems to be really wonderful, and I think it's just because it's your own story. That's what I say. You're being told, you're remembering your own story, and it's just wonderful to hear that story.
So there's a question from Marlena where she says, can you explain how God consciousness is different from the void? I thought that in the void, a person or I was getting closer to God consciousness.
The void is a gap. When he talks about shunya is a gap which is in between all states of consciousness. There's actually a gap between waking and dreaming, and that's the entry point into that. But that's going to come up in the next part of this last verse. He's going to talk, and he's going to bring it all back to practice again, which is what Swamiji always does to keep us grounded, like saying you have to practice to achieve this state.
Let's listen to, there's some more questions, but let's listen to the last part of Swamiji's and then we can go into the questions.
Yeah, some of them might get answered in this.
Yathabhilashit nirmeyi nirmatritvam bhavati. Then whatever he thinks, whatever he tries to desire, it comes true to him afterwards. Tathacha Sri Swachandi. It is already quoted in Swachanda Tantra. Trigunena tu jaftena swachand sadrisho bhavet. When you put awareness not only in 2 but in 3, that triple awareness carries one to God consciousness, and he becomes one with Swachanda. Triple awareness. There must be triple awareness, not 2 awarenesses of inhaling and exhaling. There must be triple awareness. Inhale, exhale, and junction. One step, another step, and in between. One talk, another talk, and in between that sensation of talk in the center. When you are aware of these three centers, then you are carried to Swachhanda, God consciousness. So in this shloka, in Swachhanda shloka, Swachhanda sadrashena beditiraskaram asya ukta, as he becomes one with Swachhanda, when one with Bhairavanatha. So differentiated perception do not exist for him. Then another quoting of the same tantra: Brahma Vishnendra Devanam Siddha Daityorugeshinam Vaidata cha Harta cha Shapa Nugraha Krat Bhavet Darpam Harati Kalasya Patiyet Bhudaranapi. He becomes so great that he terrifies Brahma, Vishnu and Indra. Brahma, Vishnu and Indra, all these topmost devatas are afraid from his wrath. Siddha Daitya Urageshana. Siddhas, Daityas, and those who rule on all those great Uragesh, Garuda, all these great deities. By that, he puts fear in them or drives away fear from them if he is satisfied with them. Shapa Nugraha Kratpavet. He becomes the bestower of boons and shap. What is shap? Curse. Curse. He curses and gives boons also. Darpam Harati Kalasya. Even the Lord of Time, Mahakala, Lord of Death, does not stand before him. Darpam Harati Kalasya. Patiyet Bhudarana Bihigan. Patiyet. Subject? No. Patiyet. Ground. Thrown down. He throws down great mountains also to the ground level by his power of will.
Muted, Shana.
I didn't know you were ready. I wasn't ready. I was just probably talking
Yeah.
to myself.
I was just thinking, I'm in Nepal. I don't want to stand near anybody that's that enlightened because there's lots of mountains here, and I could get crushed. No, it's an analogy, as everybody knows.
So Vijay wrote earlier, he said, if a yogi starves the mind, the ego, the intellect with total silence, will the other 5 puriyashtikas, sensations, automatically not feel pain and pleasure? Will concentration on breath not feed the mind, the ego, and the intellect and keep them alive?
I think that basically it's not a state that you can actually just pull your mind back in and then have it. Like John said earlier on, it's the difference between what's called nimilana samadhi and unmilana samadhi. You can have that state internally and everything gets dissolved, but when you come out back into the world, as long as the eyes you're looking through see differentiation, then you're subject to that differentiation. So you're subject to pain and pleasure. It's that way.
Barbara mentioned from earlier, she said, when he talks about the different kinds of ego, the body, the breath, etc., and then he says that he is not in his own ego of his own true nature, is the latter a possible reference to the state of samprajna?
Say that one more time. What did you say?
Tell me how to pronounce the last word first, George.
I can't see it.
It's Samprajna. Samprajna? Is the J as in the... Anyways, let me just read this one more time. When he talks about the different kinds of ego, the body, the breath, etc., and when he says that he is not in his own ego of his true nature, is the latter a possible reference to the state of samprajna?
Yes, I'm looking for the question, but no, you
It's
can't.
from Barbara towards the bottom.
I know, and it's a term which is not common in Shaivism. Pragya, you know, the sprouting of awareness, or like, and yeah, sameness. I guess I'm not that familiar with it because it's from the Yoga Sutras. It's from Patanjali, uses sampragya a lot. There's a lot of differences in the whole terminology, even the meaning of different words in that. So yeah, it's this Puri Ashtaka is really an interesting thing. John, were you going to say something first, John?
No, I was not thinking. You know, that expression of, you know, the body, the ego of the body, and the pranas, and those different states of ego. Those are states of limited ego, and that's the states of the ego in the world. You know, that
Yeah.
waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and shunya, the void state. These are all egos of those states of the individual. But what Swamiji's talking about here is that underlying state, that reality which shines through and it gives life to everything. That reality of your own being, that's your real self. Not these other egos. They're also there, painted on top of that, but they're not the actual real reality of your being, which is shining through everything. That's what this verse is pointing to.
And I told a story some time ago, which I think is pretty illustrative of this. If it's time for me to just give a little story, because it answers this question. This Puri Ashtaka is a mysterious concept. And I told this story about a man who I met a few years back in Jammu, who was a devotee of Swamiji, and this is after Swamiji had passed away. But he was very devoted, and he was diagnosed with terminal cancer, basically. And they said there's a possibility that you can have an operation, but it's really uncertain. And he used to come to the ashram every day. He'd sit in the room, just meditate, because the doctors gave him no alternative. But he had the date for the operation. So he went in, he had the operation. And at the end of the operation, they wheeled him out and put him in post-op, and he died. He explained to me exactly what happened. He said, I've never experienced anything like this. He said, I came out of my body and I stood beside the bed. I was completely free of pain, and I was completely detached from that body that I was looking down at. That was me. He said, I knew it was me. And he said, I couldn't work out where I was. I was in a room. There I was. There's my physical body. And I said to him, I said, you're in your Puri Ashtaka. You're in your subtle body looking back. He said, but I had no pain. I couldn't feel anything. And then he said, then these, what he said, what Swamiji calls the hell members came. They came into the room and they were very polite. They said, now your time is finished here. You have to come. You have to come with us. And he said, all the time that I was sitting in the ashram praying to Swamiji, I was saying to Swamiji, you have to keep me here. I have so many commitments. My family are not really settled. He wasn't that old. And I've got these bills to pay and everything like that. So these two members came and they said, come with us. It's really nice. We're going to take you to another place and you'll enjoy that. And he said, and then immediately that those thoughts came, Swamiji came into the room. Now, Swamiji's already been passed away 25 years ago. Swamiji came into the room, he said, dressed immaculately in white with this white sort of long gown. And he was so bold and ferocious. He said, stop, leave him, don't take him. He's my disciple. He's not going. You leave him, like, get out. They quickly vacated. And he said, Swamiji just kind of looked at me and just gave me, it's okay. He says, the next thing I woke up in post-op, like 3 or 4 hours later. So the Puri Ashtaka, which we all have, is the vehicle which we use to travel between lifetimes. And as long as it's entrenched in the body that we have right now, we feel pain. He said it was amazing. I know I was in pain, but he said, but I was looking back at my body like it was a coffee table. And I had no attachment. I had no pain and pleasure, like he didn't use those terms, but in illustrating in this whole thing there. And yeah, and we have that beautiful verse in our Bhairava Stotra, which we sing every Sunday in the puja, that fourth verse. I asked Claudia to have it as a slide and put it up on the screen, which Abhinavagupta summarized everything in those 10 verses of the Bhairava Stotra. Do you have that there, Claudia? Yeah. So this is Abhinavagupta's Bhairava Stotra, and it's verse 4. And I'll sing it, and Denise, if you can read it out afterwards. So, and the meter of this is very, very nice, very melodious. Antakamam prati madrishamenam kroda karala tamam vidadihi shankara sevana chintana diro bhishana bhairava shakti mayosmi. Can you read that, Denise, please?
Yes. O angel of death, do not look towards me with wrathful and frightening eyes, as I am always absorbed in the worship of Lord Shiva. Through constant devotion, meditation, and reflection, I have become steadfast and courageous, one with the energy of the terrifying Bhairava. Thus your dreadful and frightening looks can do me no harm. We recite this every Sunday.
Yeah, and read out all the 10 verses, which encapsulate the whole of Abhinavagupta was a genius. Like, he would write these little hymns, and in them, impregnated into that, was the whole philosophy of Shaivism on an experiential level. And this sums up that last verse, that last part of the verse that we heard, where he said, he even frightens the Lord of Death. It's hard for us to imagine, but I just remember that man's story so vividly, and how he told it so nonchalantly. And he said, George, I never had a spiritual experience in my life before that. I used to meditate, I did puja. He said, I loved Swamiji dearly. And at the 11th hour, he was my only hope, And he's still alive after 5 years. He recovered from the cancer, everything, So there you have it.
Beautiful. There's one more comment, question. It'd be a nice way to end, because I'm sure some people wonder this themselves from meditating for many years or practicing. Lonnie says, over time, I feel less and less emotional attachment to the physical body and to the story. I still feel some responsibility to take care of business, but less of a personal stake in it. Does this sound consistent with what is being discussed here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Becoming less attached to your body. Going to that point where instead of saying I feel pain, you can say this is pain.
So before we say, oh, George, go for it.
No,
George.
just the more you meditate, the more you start to feel beautiful inside yourself. Really, it's a feeling that you start to realize, as Abhinavagupta says, your own dignity, your own divinity within you, all these energies, shaktis, and which we're full of. And that's the feeling of there's a kind of a detachment from the things of the world, but you still love the things of the world. They're still beautiful. In fact, they start to shine more, but you do feel this internal, I could only call it divinity. That's how Swamiji used to say that at the end of the Asadevata Chakra Stotra, another hymn of Abhinavagupta, he says, you should never hate your body because your body is divine. Sushana, sorry.
No, that was fantastic. Thank you all. I just wanted to say Claudia's intuitive art class, it's a free art class at 10 a.m. is after this. She's going to put the link up on the chat thing. So join. It's wonderful. It really is. You don't have to be seen. You can be in the background or just not much to bring along, but just be a part of something that's quite healing and coming together. So Claudia's put that up, and then thank you all. We'll see you next week. Everyone else.
Thanks for coming.
Jai Gurudev.
Yes.
So wonderful to talk about Swamiji again and again.
Yes.
And to share his teaching.
Namaste Rudra Rupete